Hi, everyone, and welcome to OneMicNite, the podcast that brings you stories of artists and people on their journey, helping to guide, answer questions, and motivate you in life and the business. You know who I am. It's Marcos Luis, and I'm back. Thank you. This is season 5, and we're just rolling along. So thank you, everyone, for being along on this journey and helping me to document people's lives. I do want to remind you that coming up the end of this month, or actually the middle of this month, May 16th, I'm back at the Harlem International Film Festival. I'll be moderating the events with the filmmakers. So if you missed it last year, make sure you get there. We're at Columbia University in the Forum again. So a lot of incredible films that are happening from all over the world. They're not just from New York. These are international filmmakers. And a lot of these films go on to be on PBS and the huge network. So make sure you come out and support filmmakers. So today, my guest, and you know that I'm always excited when I talk to actors and filmmakers, but my guest is a radio host. He's a former model, still could be modeling today. He's also an actor, and he's got a new film coming out. Please welcome Justin P. Martin to OneMicNite. How you doing, Justin?
Doing great. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to join your platform here.
Thank you. Thank you very much for taking time out of your schedule. I know how hard it
Sure.
is. You got a lot of stuff going on. Listen, I have questions.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm an open book. I'm all about the answers, so I got them for you.
Let's go. The first question is, who is Justin P. Martin?
Dang, that's a good question.
Yeah.
In short, a man of many talents. I wear many hats. And I'm not one to usually toot my own horn, if I'm being honest with you, Marcus. I'm Marcos. I don't toot my own horn, but I do a lot because I like to stay busy. If I'm not busy, I'm not happy. Especially in this industry, and working in entertainment, you always got to be. You got to always have your best foot forward and just remain focused and active. So, I've actually started in the entertainment industry. Back in, oh my gosh, I had to be like 12 years old, I think, 13 years old when I started doing some work here and there and really having that interest. Um, but kind of before we dive into that, who I am, people think I do. And, if you're East Coast or West Coast and you have a passion for acting, modeling, hosting, events or radio, many people think that you do it full time, but many of us don't do it full time. We have a full time job. So that part of me that many people don't know unless you work with me is I've been working in finance and banking for over 17 years. So that's my that's my moneymaker, right? Like
Right.
that's what
Yeah.
allows me to do everything else that I do. I started in the industry in that sector or that field back in 2006. Didn't even go to college for it, to be honest with you. I just started straight after high school and worked my way up after 17 years to a vice president at my company. So very grateful for the opportunity they allowed me to have over the years. But that is my full-time gig, and I try to be just as active in the entertainment industry part-time. So pretty much I don't have any free time.
Yeah.
I don't.
Understandable.
Um,
Understandable.
yeah, and
Yeah, I do
yeah,
know.
but that's kind of
So
me in
let
a
me
nutshell.
let me back up just a little bit. So working in finance, was it something that you chose yourself, or did you feel a little pressure from your parents and the family to have a career first and then have the acting and the film and the media is the plan B?
Yeah, yeah. You know how some parents are. That your head's in the clouds. Be more realistic.
Mhm.
Um, and they weren't too hard on me about that, but they were very conservative. Both my parents. My father owned his own family business with his brother and his father, and so it was very well structured in my family. So they wanted me to have a career.
Yeah.
And to most of my family, entertainment to them may not be a career when it really is. So they were more like, you got to be more hands on. You got to get something that's actually going to be more stable of a job, if you will. So
Where did
digging
you grow
full
up? I'm sorry, places. Where did you grow up?
Oh, Washington D.C.
Washington, D.C. Okay.
Yeah, nation's capital, man.
Yeah.
Busy, busy, busy. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And they have like 3 locations out in that general area of the DMV. My dad and his business. But they never really forced me to get into what I wanted to do as far as a job. They just wanted me to get a real job. So when I was in high school, my brother-in-law actually worked in banking, and I didn't really have any plugs or outlets, if you will, into the workforce. So I partnered with him to get an opportunity to interview for a job at the same bank that he was working at. And I got it at 18 years old, 3 months after graduation. No experience, obviously. They had belief in me. And here we are 17 years later. VP. I'm right up
Interesting. That's
there.
very interesting. It also goes along with what we do as artists too. It's who you know that gets you in the door,
It
and
is.
then the talent then proves your longevity for what you
Yeah,
do.
100%.
Absolutely. So
That's
it's
what it
it's
is.
it's definitely a parallel. When did you start doing some work in media and acting and hosting and things like that?
Officially, when I was 22, I believe, maybe 21, because I broke into the industry in the modeling field, if you will. Um, that's when I started. I modeled for American Eagle, Hugo Boss, some big names, and then of course local designers and stylists as well over in the East Coast, New York, Virginia, DC. But the bigger names is what got me in the door and what got me into like the world of opportunity for modeling. I became a modeling instructor at a young age of 23. I think I was. I taught modeling classes
Mm,
at a school based in DC, and I did that for 6 years, part time with my other job, which was hectic. But I loved it so much, and that's kind of what drove my passion for just being involved in the entertainment industry first. But I've always had a love for acting. My fear was with acting when I was younger, nobody really talked about the indie community, independent films. Nobody, you don't hear
yes.
about it, especially
Right.
when you're young, right?
Hmm.
And if you're not in a popular area where that exists, you just don't know much about it. So
Right.
for me, nobody talked about it. So I'm thinking, I'm going for like the big productions, Hollywood, which I probably may not as much have a chance for because they're looking for something specific. And of course, I wasn't SAG certified, if you will. But that's what my worry was: is I'm never going to break into this industry because I don't have opportunity. I don't have an agent. Like, what am I going to do? And then I found indie, and I think that helped launch my career because I started doing television as well. I've done a lot of crime series. Ones on ID Channel, Oxygen Channel, even ones over in Germany, which I'm like, they have it in German, so I didn't understand what the episode was saying, but I remember what I did in the episodes. But it was just crazy. Like those doors opened up nonstop after
Right.
that. And I was so grateful that I've been able to balance that side of my life and my career side of my life, right? Just as equal. I mean, they're almost like eye to eye equal. So that I love.
I think this is interesting, and there's so many elements that go along with it. So first of all, coming from a smaller city, most people think, just like you said, you have to live in New York or you have to live in LA to be in these huge major commercial productions, which is not true. That's what our ideal was. But over the last, I would say like 15 years or maybe even 20 years, we've seen the indie market grow.
Yeah,
And we've seen technology change in a way where it's more accessible for people to make these indie projects. So you don't have
yeah,
to be a SAG member to do great work and the work to get out there and to be seen. And then that's
right,
where you get the production deal. And then that's where it becomes a huge commercial success.
right.
I personally prefer to work in the indie market
Yeah,
because one, your story's not altered.
right.
You put out the art that you want to put out, and people receive it in a way that they receive it. And then you go on and make the next project,
Yeah, yeah. That's what it
right?
is. And
I
there's an
know.
area that's so great with indie, and you know this as well, I'm sure. People don't realize this. Don't, for those of you who are tuning in, don't bash independent films or
Please
indie
don't.
films because a lot of them nowadays are great quality just as a Hollywood style production.
Listen, that's what I'm saying. Technology is such that you can rent the
Yeah,
equipment to the same ones that they use in Hollywood. You
100%.
know,
Yes, you can.
camera, and get people who are doing their job and who are hungry for it and the
Right.
passion and
Yeah.
make a killer project, submit it to a festival,
Yeah.
and next thing you know, producers want to buy your work.
Right.
That's it.
That's the connections right there, man.
That's absolutely the connection.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I love the festivals. You talked about one, I think you said in Harlem,
Hmm.
that's coming up, right?
Right.
And I haven't been to that one yet. I've been to a couple out in LA and in New York over time, over the years.
What were your
But
favorite things
those are
about?
such
Yeah, what are your favorite things about going to the festival?
just the networking, to be honest with you. I
Yeah.
mean, of course, as an indie artist and working in all the different sectors of the entertainment industry, I have such a love for it, but not just for myself. Like I support my peers who are in the industry because I know how hard it is to make your name and make your spot in that market.
Yeah.
So I'm a big supporter, and it's not just like the festivals are one thing where everyone's coming out and really just showcasing their work, but also looking for that support. But it's also the different conventions that go on. I go to a lot of different horror cons, and I say horror because that's the genre of film I've been in the last 4 years.
Hmm.
And all over the US, the different horror cons that they have, you meet all the different artists from the big productions as well. They're older now, obviously, but you just get that opportunity to build your platform and build those connections with those actors and those artists. And that's where I show the most of my support because I go around to all their booths and I purchase something. And it's not about spending the money, but it's about showing that I'm there to help them
Right.
and to support them. And so I love doing something like that where I can contribute as well as the festivals and just make sure that I'm giving them the support they deserve.
You said the keyword support. And it's not only, us asking for support as artists, but it's us supporting other artists.
Right.
And I think you're absolutely right. And I think that going to the festivals is where we do those things. And you do make the connections. I can't tell you how many festivals I've gone to and we exchange numbers. And the next day I have an inbox from that
Yeah.
person. And then we
Yeah.
negotiate something. And then I'm working on that project.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Huge. Yeah.
It's huge. It's
Yeah.
huge. Have you ever
Yeah.
been to Shriek Fest?
No, no, I have not been to Street Fest.
I
No,
think
I have wanted to go. Yeah.
that was probably one of my favorites. They have one in LA, and I think they're doing one in Miami now too.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But yeah, if you guys submit your work to Shriekfest, you'll enjoy that.
Yeah,
That's
we may
right
have
up
to
your
do that.
alley.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a good idea.
Let's talk about that. What's a genre of film? Well, first of all, tell us what the name of the new work that you have out.
Yeah, there's actually two films coming
Two
out,
films.
which is surprising. They both went through post production at the same time, which doesn't usually happen very often. And they're both rolling out this year. So the two films, one is called Killer Camp Out 2, and then the second film is called CrackCoon. It is what it is.
What
It
the
sounds like what it is.
hell
Yeah.
is that? Tell us what that is.
Right. Oh my gosh. So everyone knows about Cocaine Bear, right?
Right.
And it's not a rip off of Cocaine Bear because I believe the production probably started around the same time that that movie came out. But it's parallel to the storyline, but Crackoon is a little bit different. So it's a horror comedy, but more focused on the comedy. There's a lot of those witty comments, the quick puns, the things that you would see on some of your favorite TV shows, just the fast back and forth remarks that make it so comedic. And that's what I loved about Crackoon. Because when I first was presented with the opportunity, I'm like, a raccoon that gets into a bag of crack. I mean, how far can this really go? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
how far is it going to go? And I saw Cocaine Bear, so I kind of knew what to expect. But when I read the script, I was like just wowed, like completely astonished because there's a story to it, to Crackoon. And the characters is what really makes it so dynamic because of the relationship between the characters. In that movie, I played the lead role of Frankie. Oh my God, Frankie annoys me, so I know I did a good job because I hate Frankie, but that's what made it so good because I was able to play that role and really make it just this person that people are either going to love or they're going to hate. Um,
For
he
those
was a
people who don't, I'm sorry to interrupt you. For those people who don't know exactly what this is, can we
Yeah,
kind of explain to them? It's an underground kind of cult horror classic comedy. So
yes,
all those words together.
all those
And
words.
yeah, and like you said, it's a fast-paced dialogue that's horror and gore, but it's funny.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So that's, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. That's
yeah,
really what it is. the purpose of this production company, who is Fuzzy Monkey Films, great name, one you probably won't forget, right? Fuzzy Monkey Films. Um, they're based in the Maryland and DC market, if you will. But their go-to are these type of films, either your infamous '80s slasher movies, which is Killer Camp Out 2, or your more horror comedies, more modern day, which is CrackCoon. And I think the purpose that what they aim for is a mixture of that blood and gore and special effects and the things
Mm,
that make people like want more. But then we want to keep you laughing at the same time and have so many unexpected twists to where it's not it's not something that you're going to be scared of. It's something that you're going to want to know what's going to happen next. You're either going to laugh or you're going to like shit yourself. I don't know if I can cuss. I'm
right.
sorry.
Yeah. I
Or
love
you're
that.
gonna, you know, you're gonna like freak out because you don't know what's coming next. But then it's like a hilarious moment that just like relieves the tension, and you're like, oh my god, that's so stupid but funny. So that's where that balance is, and that's what they look for. Fuzzy Monkey Films really wants to provide a production that's going to gear towards all the audience members and what they like.
Interesting. So for people who don't know, we can equivocate it to something like The Fly, John
Yeah,
Carpenter, or there was one back in the 80s. It was called what did they say? Like Street Trash,
yeah,
those
yeah.
kind of movies.
Yeah, and
That's
that's
gore.
exactly what
Yeah,
it is. Yep, that's
exactly.
exactly what it is. And that's CrackCoon. Killer Camp Out 2, they have its comedic moments, but it's not categorized as a horror comedy. It's a horror thriller, so it's definitely your more modern '80s or '90s slasher film. And this film is based in the '80s.
Oh
But
wow.
I don't know what's
What was
felt
that
like.
like? What's that like working on a film based in the 80s? First of all,
Uh,
what do you do as an actor to prepare to do like an 80s cult?
so good question.
Yeah.
I do a lot of, I mean, before any role, I do a lot of research online of things that will relate to those characters. Or if I know a production that had a character in it that's similar, I'll focus on them more or less. But I looked back, even just internet searching and browsing, right? Surfing through all the different films and productions that were mainly horror or thriller back then, getting some of the mannerisms down from the actors, getting some of that, like, you can just see the atmosphere and how the production, like the small details that made a big difference to put it in that era, if you will. Those are the things that I focused on when preparing for the role in Killer Camp Out 2. Has a bit of more, again, modern day to it. Like there's not all '80s based, but even like the looks and appearances of the cast were from back then, maybe like
Mm,
the early '90s. You have the girls with the big scrunchies in the hair,
right.
and things like that. And those were some of the characters that were in this film. My character, I'm not gonna lie, I did struggle a bit with my look to make it look a little more back then. And I still don't know if my look fits the picture of it. It kind of does, but I still kind of bash myself a little bit. Like, you could have done a little bit better, Justin, with your look. But I had a little, shorter hair. I shaved most of my goatee down, so it was kind of like the ugly little, just the regular goatee, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, but it gave to the character, so it was pretty good. But yeah, that movie was so much fun. I wasn't in the first Killer Camp Out. Actually, none of the actors except for two returned for part two, Killer Camp Out 2. So most of it was all brand new actors. Um, yeah.
This is great. I love this because it's kind of a cheeky, um, I don't even know how to describe it. Like you're kind of laughing at yourself, or you know what I mean, while you're doing the
Yeah.
character.
Yeah.
And like you can't take yourself too seriously when you're doing the character, but you do
Right.
if it's a thriller,
Right.
so you have to make it sort of believable, but not so believable, but funny. And
Yeah.
it's kind of a really interesting dichotomy of things that
Yeah.
happen there.
Yeah.
That's a really hard acting job to have to pull off.
It's tough, but
Hmm.
the good thing about this director at Fuzzy Monkey is he is all about like the actors come first, and that's his primary focus. So as you know, working in acting, you're doing this for weeks and weeks and weeks, months sometimes, and within filming, and then they're doing 20 takes per scene, right?
Right.
So the more you do it, obviously, the better, because the more reps you have, and you start to know your lines even more, and it's just more natural and organic of the conversation and the scenes. But the director does a good job in between to try to tweak some things or ask you, like, what do you want to add to this? Like, I want you to make this your scene. Like, this is your
I
moment.
love
So what
that.
do
I
you want to do?
love
Throw
it.
it completely off script, and he'll let
Yeah,
you do that. He'll
I
let
love
you do
that.
that to make it something like A class, which I love, because not every director allows you to do that.
Not at all.
So yeah, we're good over at Fuzzy Monkey because we have a really good producer and director. So yeah.
I like that. Do you like working in this genre more than other so
I
far?
don't
I'll say
know.
so far. I'll say so
Yeah,
far.
so
Yeah.
far, I never imagined myself doing thriller or horror. I was always more into comedy and drama. Like, that was my niche. That was my avenue. And I think I've only done like maybe two productions in that genre, those genres. Everything else has been in film. Everything else has been horror or thriller so far. And I began to love it so much more. I don't know. It was unexpected, but I think there's a level of suspense when you're playing one of these characters in a thriller or horror movie. You're
Mhm.
always, no matter what role you have, there's a level of suspense to it, whether you're supposed to be giving it away and giving clues or you're not, right? And that's what I love the most about this is you don't really know who's playing what role until the main plot comes into play, right? Until something happens, and you're like, ah, there we go. That's who he is. And I love that, being that mysterious character that you don't know what's going to happen or who I'm really playing in the movie. I
That's
like that.
interesting. I like that
Yeah.
too. What makes you take a role as an actor
Um,
or make you audition for a role?
yeah. For me, I'm more like what you call like a character actor. So I can really play any character, no matter what it is. So far, so far. Um, so I am all about the story. A lot of times when you're doing auditions, you just get a short bio, if you will, or synopsis. You don't get a lot of details. But when they
Mhm.
send you the sides of the audition information, I mean, it's enough to paint a picture, but what I like to do before even auditioning is obviously look into the project, look into the person who's pitching the project, the producer, director, whoever is putting it out there for casting and auditions. I do a little research into other productions they've done, um, the producer or director themselves, getting a feel for what I can expect to work with them for one, because that's huge for me.
Mhm.
That is big for me. I have turned down opportunities where it may be someone who isn't appealing to actors in the industry, that people have kind of veered away from or had negative experiences with. And it's different for everybody. So you
Right.
can't just turn it down because somebody else had a bad experience. But if there's 10 or 15 actors in the industry who all typically don't have good feedback about a production company or director, then I'll kind of take a hint. So I like to do a lot of research into it to make sure that I'm comfortable with it. But even within the roles, I like to make sure that it makes sense for me. Like, I'm able to jump into the character very easily and kind of make it my own, if
Mhm.
you will.
Yeah.
And what is the dynamic relationship between this character and the other characters? Because I love having a presence in any production where I can do a solo scene just fine, but I love it when I'm with somebody else, when I'm with other people. That's where I think I thrive the most, because I go off their energy. Like, it's all about the chemistry of the actors, and that's what really, you hit those beats, and it makes it so much different.
I
So
love
I
it.
like to be with somebody, and I kind of get a feel for that in the sides or the audition information when I'm sent that.
You
And
took
then
the
I
words
decide
right
if
out of
I'm
my
going to.
mouth. I was gonna ask you, how is the chemistry? Because that's important when you're doing a project. You have to have chemistry with the other actors
Oh,
and
yeah.
especially the director.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yes. Yeah, it's really important.
yeah,
Yeah, and if it's, like, standoffish, if you're getting a bad vibe or energy, I mean, you kinda put that into your character sometimes. If you're feeling like, yeah, you're there to do a job, but you're not able to build a bond, a relationship, or network with anybody on set, then I don't feel like you're going to give it your best.
right.
And I've had a lot of experiences, not a lot, but I've had, on one hand, I can count a couple times where I've had experiences like that in productions that were in New York or California. And I'm like, Okay, this will probably be my only project working with this team. But and it sucks. It really
Yeah,
does
it does
because
suck.
you don't wanna put your all into it if you're not able to really connect to your
Mhm.
character or other characters and other people that are there with you. You know, it makes it hard.
Where's the film going now, or what's happening with the film or the
Yeah, so good
films, I should
question.
say? Yeah.
Yeah. So Killer Campout 2 and CrackCoon will be released on streaming platforms this fall, August and September. Typically, Fuzzy Monkey films are launched on like Amazon Prime. They are on, of course, Tubi. Um, there's Plex TV, there's Shutter, and I think maybe Hulu Plus might be one of them as well. But I definitely know like my go-to is usually Amazon Prime or Tubi if you don't want to pay for it. I mean, I'm just trying to be nice. I
That's
want everyone
true.
to see
That's
it.
true.
It's crazy, right? Because I always wondered, like, you put it on Tubi where it's free, but then you put it on this where someone's got to pay 99 cents to see it. Anyway,
Right.
whatever you prefer to do, hey,
That's right.
I would love you to see both films. Now, at the end of this month, so just coming up in a couple of weeks, we're actually having our world premiere for both movies. And this is the first time that we're doing a double premiere because it's the first time we've had two movies coming out back
Wow.
to back, which
Wow.
is insane.
Insane. Yeah.
Yeah. So in Maryland, for those of you who are East Coast, there's a city called, I'm probably going to say this wrong, a city called Havre de Grace or Harbor de Grace. I think it's Havre de Grace.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a theater there called State Theater, which is going to be where we're promoting and premiering these two films, May 25th and May 26th, so Memorial Day weekend, essentially.
Gotcha.
Um, and we're doing the full shebang. You know, we have the red carpet, we have the backdrop photo ops if you want to take photos for people who are coming out or with the actors. We have the film premieres one Saturday, one Sunday. A Q&A with all the actors afterwards. We're doing merchandise there, so we have a booth set up of all of our films and T-shirts, posters signed by the artist. I mean, there's so many things that are going on. There's drinks there if you want to be somebody who'd rather,
You
you know,
just said
have
the magic word.
yes, you want to get comfortable before you watch some films.
Yeah,
There's a place for you here. Don't worry.
that's good.
But it's gonna be a fun event, and CrackCoon's coming out on Saturday the 25th, or premiering that day, and then Sunday is going to be Killer Campout 2. So if you guys go to eventbrite.com and just search for either film title, CrackCoon or Killer Campout 2, even if you search for the slogan, which I actually made up and it stuck, CrackCoon Campout,
That's
which
good.
is a
That's a
fun
good
time,
one.
right?
Raccoon Camp out. Yes.
If you search for that too, it'll come up. And tickets are not bad. If you get them online in advance, it's only $15, $20 at the door. If you want to come out to both movies, you get a bundle pass where you're only paying $25 for both movies. So it's a really good deal. And I encourage everyone to come. If you want to wait for the fall time to be on streaming networks, absolutely. But it's going to be a different experience in person because all the actors are going to be there, all the crew, the director is going to give a little spiel there too. So it's going to be a nice opportunity to meet and greet. And I will be honest with you, this director is very open-minded. His name is Brad Twigg. I love Brad. He's like a brother to me. I've been with him now for about 5 or 6 years working with him in films. And if you meet him at the premiere and you're an actor who's interested in getting into the horror genre, this is your opportunity to connect with Brad because he is a person that will work with you while you're there. He will
This
talk
is
with you
beautiful.
about
I
opportunities.
love this. This is why I like indie films. You know what I
Yes.
mean? It's such at the grassroots level, and it's talking to people and making the connection and working.
Yeah.
You find
It's
ways
what
to
it's all
work.
about.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love it.
Yeah.
So, Justin, I want to ask you about something. You have a radio show. It's called Radio Out the Box, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Out
Tell
the
us about
Box
that.
radio show.
Out the Box
Yeah.
radio show. Tell us
Yeah.
about that.
So I had started that in 2017, and that show was an opportunity for me to partner with other artists in the community, DC, Maryland, Virginia, but not just there. That's just where I started. I brought on guests who were actors, musicians, dancers, authors of books, stylists, brand designers, ambassadors. What I really loved the most about that was obviously again the big word support, right?
Hmm.
Supporting local artists who want a platform to showcase their work and their background and their talent. So we had people come on doing playing the guitar live. Like if they were a musician, they played live on the show. We also showed their music videos. We had a studio, so we had room for them to, stretch out. We would move the table. They would stand on a backdrop and they would just go for it. We had somebody playing clarinet, trumpet before. I mean, it was just such a great opportunity for everybody. But what's funny? When I started the show back in 2017, I actually started it for one purpose, and it just developed over there from there. I started it because I have done reality TV before, um, three different shows, and I have met a lot of people in the industry of reality television. And I wanted a chance to talk to those reality stars for them to give their experience of what happens behind the scenes, what people don't get
Yes.
to see on TV. Like
Right.
to me, that's the juicy
That's
gossip
the
I
juice.
want to know
Yeah.
about.
Yes. Yes.
So that's what I did. And the first, I think, 6 months probably of the show was all reality TV stars from Real Housewives of Potomac, Atlanta, Bad Girls Club, which used to be my fucking show. I
Right.
used to
Right.
love
Yeah.
Bad Girls Club.
Yeah.
So all different shows from different platforms would come on and they would talk about their behind the scenes crazy stuff that people don't know about. And then from there, I took it a little bit further and said, this is amazing. This is exactly what I wanted, but there's so many people reaching out locally in the area that want a platform, and I wasn't at the time giving that opportunity because I was booked up. I
Hmm.
was booked. So then I said, you know what? No, I'm going to open this up more for the local talent, and then just sprinkle in some reality celebs as we go. And it kind of took a turn from there, and I opened it up in our market, and it was just it was a different experience because they were coming in person, and building those relationships again and those connections is what made it worthwhile. And I loved it. And I did for Sirius XM. I worked for 2 years on this show. But before that, we were in a local studio in DC and Maryland.
I like that.
Um,
Why did it end? Why did you stop it, or is it still kind of
I stopped
lingering?
it in 2021, I believe.
Hmm.
Um,
That was
it was
kind
right
of
around COVID.
post-pandemic. Yeah.
Yeah, it was right around COVID.
Hmm.
I have a passion for talking. I have a passion for being a host. I really do. So
Hmm.
I loved it. I would come up with the agendas, the interview questions, everything, the marketing, the flyers. I made all of those. And it was my blood, sweat, and tears. Unfortunately, I was a show where I wanted the camaraderie of co hosts. I needed that to feed off of. So I wanted two co-hosts with me at all times so that it was a group effort.
Right.
But I kind of feel like most of the work, 85 or more percent of it, was myself putting in. And I just felt like it was a lot, and with post-pandemic, I was like, you know what? So much going on. Films were coming in left and right that I was working on. I didn't have as much time. So I put it on the back burner. Um, but it's not the end of Out the Box Radio. Out the
Right.
Box Radio show will come out again. I'm just waiting to find the right co-host for it.
Absolutely. So this is where you and I are sort of kindred spirits because that's how One Mic Night started. One Mic
Okay.
Night started as a platform, an open mic, which I call the live series. So I
Yeah.
worked in a restaurant, and people, people listening, you've heard this story before, but a restaurant in the West Village of New York, and I wanted to generate some business for the restaurant. So I invited this woman that I worked with before with a guitar to come in and sing. Hopefully, people come in. Popped the door open. People just started walking in. I was like, wow, I think we got something here. I said, next week,
Nice.
you invite some musicians. I'll invite some poets. We'll see what we do. I took my one microphone,
Mm-hmm.
thus One Mic Night,
Right.
and just let it
Nice.
happen. People just started coming in. Full
Wow.
house. Fast forward, Grammy Award winning artist in this tiny restaurant, and it was residential above the restaurant.
Okay.
So this night, a guy from a nightclub came in. He's like, man, this is great. If you ever need a spot, let us know. Blah, blah, blah. I said, cool, Chris, nice to meet you. Residents came from upstairs the same night. They said, listen,
Okay.
we love the music. It's great. You got to go. We have to work
Oh,
tomorrow because this was happening on a Monday night.
yeah.
You got to
Wow.
go. Corey Glover, who was the lead singer of the group from the 90s called Living Color,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
he was in Jesus Christ Superstar. Powerful voice. He's the one that blew the roof off that night.
Yeah.
But then they were like, you got to go. So I go
Oh,
outside. I
man.
call this guy, Chris. I'm like, Chris, you're not going to believe what just happened. He's like, what? I said, we got kicked out. He said, no problem. Come over to my spot. Huge nightclub on the Lower East Side of New York.
Wow.
So every Monday I started filling the place up.
Yeah.
I had independent bands. At one point I had the largest poetry event in New York. I had a comedy night, but it was me doing all the work. Like
Yeah.
I hadn't scaled it in a business way. So it
Right.
was me. This is when YouTube just started taking off. So I had my HQ video camera on top of
Yeah.
the bar. I would turn
Right.
it on, I would run down, I'd introduce the guest, I'd run back, turn the video off, turn it back on because I didn't have the tools to edit.
Yeah.
So I just directly uploaded to YouTube.
Wow.
So that was back in 2006,
Yeah.
right?
Wow. Wow.
Anyway, long story short, it kept going for years and years and years. And then over the pandemic, I switched it into the virtual one mic
Yeah.
night,
Which is
right?
how most all of them are now. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's launched the opportunity for so many people
So
now.
many things. But so I call
Yes.
it Talk Live Pod. That's my hashtag. So I still
Okay.
have the One Mic Night Talk, which is where I have a psychotherapist on. We talk about wellness and mental health and things like that.
Oh,
And
great.
then I have the live series, which is the live events. And then I have the podcast, which is what we have.
Oh, awesome.
But it's
Oh,
always
so
been a
you're
platform
juggling
for
a lot.
artists. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
say all that to say, if you would like to come back and be a co-host on One Mic Night Talk, I would love that.
Oh my gosh.
We
Oh,
could sort of do a little thing here with Out the
yeah.
Box Radio and One Mic Night Joint. And
Yeah.
you
You have
wouldn't
to
have to
tell me
carry the
twice.
burden. So,
Right. Oh, that's great.
but that
Yeah.
might be
Someone who
something
has
in
the
the future we
knowledge
could
and
do a collab.
background into it.
Yeah, yeah, we could do a
That's
collab.
what's important. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, I look forward to that. Thank you so much. Yeah.
likewise.
It's a good opportunity.
How can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can find me on social media. On Facebook, I'm at Justin Kendall Martin. So the Ken has a hyphen in the middle. Justin Kendall Martin. And then Instagram is very similar. It's Kendall underscore JP. So that's probably, I use Facebook more, to be honest with you. It used to be IG more, but now it's pretty much Facebook now. So that's how people can stay connected. If you look up Fuzzy Monkey Films on Facebook, there's a page there for them, which gives all the information about our previous films, our upcoming films. I do want to give a quick plug. So we do have a Indiegogo crowdfunder, so I'm sure you're familiar with that as well.
Yes,
Um,
tell us.
we're running a campaign right now for our next film that we start shooting in August, actually. You're going to laugh. So it's actually a part two to CrackCoon. So my character is returning for this one. But it's called, it's a different animal now. It's called Crocodile.
Crocodile.
And it's as crazy as it sounds.
Okay,
They're working on their crocodile animatronic, if you will, or beast itself. They're working on building that right now. I'm a little bit nervous about this one because I don't know how to swim. To be honest with you. I can't swim to save my life.
well, you
So
know what? That's going to make it even more fun.
it's going to be real. You're going to get real reactions from me. I'm probably
Right.
actually going to be freaking out. Yeah. But I'm looking for it's so much fun. I mean, the raccoon one crack was one thing. But the crocodile being like bigger than my body, that's a whole nother
That's
beast.
hilarious.
So yeah, we are. If you look on Indiegogo.com for Crocodile, we are running a campaign right now, and there's some great perks. So if those of you who are watching don't really know what that means, this is your chance to kind of support the film, support the production, for us to film it, but also grab some merchandise while you're at it. So you're paying to contribute for your support, but you're getting something back in return. So you can buy copies of the DVDs, Blu-rays. You can buy signed posters. Again, we actually have some perks right now where you can actually be in the movie, which is you don't find that very often.
No,
So
you
we
don't.
actually have one specific where you can be killed in the movie,
Wow.
which is really
See
exciting.
that? I
And
love
you
it.
don't have to have experience. Like we'll work with you on set, allow you to make the
On
scene
being killed.
yours. Yes, and then you can be killed by a cracked out crocodile, like everyone's dream, right? But yeah, so
Great.
search for that on Indiegogo Crocodile. You'll find that we start shooting this fall, and that should come out probably the end of next year when we're
Next
wrapped
year.
with production. Yeah.
And you know what? I'll try to get the link for it and I'll put it in the notes of the episode so people can just go down and click. So make sure you check the notes of this episode. Also, you'll find links to Fuzzy
Monkey Films.
Fuzzy
Yeah,
Monkey, I'm sorry,
you got it.
Films, Fuzzy Monkey Films, as well as Justin P. Martin. Thank you so much for coming on One Mic Night. I appreciate it. Good luck with the film. If I can get there, I will definitely do it. But everybody in the DMV area, please make sure you go out and support independent artists. That's what we do. And support the Indiegogo campaign for the upcoming film. This is One Mic Night. OneMicNite is spelled OneMicNite. Slide on into my DMs. I'm on Instagram at Marcos Luis, MarcosLuis. Thank you guys all for watching. We'll see you next time on One Mic Night. See ya.